So let's go back in time. What was your first interaction with what we would now refer to as geek culture?
Well, the first part of geek culture that I was exposed to was anime, but I didn't know what it was at the time. I think that I was in like the prime demographic when Pokemon, Sailor Moon, and Dragon Ball Z hit the US. And so, we had VHS tapes of Pokemon, a couple of VHS tapes of Sailor Moon, and then one of my neighbors had like the Sailor Moon R movie. And so I watched a lot of that as a little kid, but of course I didn't call it anime. I called it realistic cartoons because the anime characters, I guess, looked more realistic than like the Powerpuff Girls or anything like that. And so I knew I liked it, but I didn't really have any avenues for watching it unless it was the few VHS tapes we had. And I remember, like, when Dragon Ball Z came out, obviously I was a girl, so I don't think my parents were expecting me to like Dragon Ball Z. But meanwhile, I knew that, like, a bunch of boys at school liked it. So I tried to ask them, hey, when does Dragon Ball Z come up? And they were like, well, we can't tell you that unless you say you like Star Wars. And I'm like, oh, Star Wars, like those movies that I've seen in my basement. And they're like, do you think Jabba the Hutt is scary? And I was like, well, yeah, he looks disgusting. And they're like, okay, we can't tell you when Dragon Ball Z is then. And so
Oh,
I
gee,
was
what
kind of
the
stuck.
what the hell?
Yeah, like, it was 10-year-old logic. I find it kind of funny in hindsight.
Very childish elitism. That's weird. This is the round of the show where I ask my guests which one of these things had more effect on their life, not necessarily better. Star
Hmm.
Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars, I got around to it eventually.
You got around. When did you end up watching Star Wars?